Everyone feared him. Kings obeyed, lords submitted, enemies vanished. Tywin Lannister was never a king. He never wanted to be one. He wanted one thing, for the name Lannister to echo forever, for no one ever to dare laugh at his house. He devoted his entire life to this, every decision, every war, every betrayal. And the house he spent a lifetime building crumbled within one generation after him. This is the story of a man who knew the price of everything and the value of nothing that mattered. Tywin grew up in shame. Not in poverty. The Lannisters were never poor. In shame. And that is worse. His mother, Jane Marbrand, died when Tywin was a boy, died in childbirth, giving life to a fourth son. Tywin was the eldest. He was about 10, and he was left with his father. Tytos Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, a man everyone called the Laughing Lion. But they laughed at him, not with him. Tytos was kind, soft. He forgave debts because he did not know how to demand. Lords borrowed his gold and never returned it. Vassals openly ignored his orders. Guests mocked him to his face. They even had a name for it, pulling the lion's tail. Tywin saw this every day, how his father was never taken seriously, how lords spoke to him with condescension as though he were a child. Then, Tytos announced the betrothal of his daughter Jenna to Emmon Frey, the second son of Lord Walder. Not the heir, the second son of a minor vassal, just to please the Freys. The entire hall was silent. Grown lords, experienced knights. No one said a word. A 10-year-old Tywin spoke, stood up and said aloud, "This is an unequal match. Even if Frey had offered his eldest son and heir, it would still be beneath the dignity of Jenna Lannister." They looked at him like a bold little boy. The betrothal was not undone. After that, Tytos sent Tywin to King's Landing as a page, away from the awkward scene. And then took a mistress, a wet nurse of his youngest son, lowborn. Let her walk the castle like its lady, wear the jewels that had belonged to Tywin's mother. The lords of the West laughed, openly now. Tywin made himself a vow, quiet, without witnesses. This would never happen again, as long as he lived. In King's Landing, at the court of King Aegon V, he met two people. Prince Aerys Targaryen, young, bright, sparkling, clever in a different way than Tywin. Where Tywin calculated, Aerys felt. Where Tywin was silent, Aerys spoke. They were opposites that attracted. And Steffon Baratheon, heir to Storm's End, broad-shouldered, straightforward, reliable. 3 boys at court, from different houses, from different worlds, but something bound them, and for a long time. Tywin watched the court and learned what castles never teach: who speaks to whom, who owes what, how real power moves not through commands, but through debts, fears, and silence. The courtiers saw a dull, serious boy from Lannisport, nearly invisible. They did not understand that this boy was already studying them all, like chess pieces, and seeing moves years ahead.
Tywin's first war came when he was 18. The Band of Nine, mercenaries and opportunists from the Free Cities, seized the Stepstones and stood at the doorstep of Westeros. With them, the last Blackfire, Meleys the Monstrous, a man who wanted the Iron Throne. The king sent an army, and young Tywin went with it. Beside him, Aerys and Steffon Baratheon, 3 friends who had grown up together at court, saw real war for the first time. The war on the Stepstones was brutal. Men Tywin knew died, his uncle Jason, other knights of the West. But Tywin did not break. He looked at the chaos around him and saw not horror, a system, who made mistakes, who hesitated, who ran. He learned. At the end of the war, Aerys earned his knighthood, and the honor of bestowing it was given to Tywin. 2 young men standing face to face, one laying a sword on the other's shoulder. Friends, brothers. Neither knew what they would become to each other in 20 years. Tywin returned home and began what could no longer be delayed. His father's vassals, lords who had not returned gold for years, who had laughed in Tytos' face and thought the young lion would be the same. They were wrong. The Tarbecks refused to repay their debt. When Tywin sent men, they were seized, thrown in a dungeon. Tywin took 3 Tarbecks living at court and put them in cages, 1 for each of his men. The Reynes of Castamere, the wealthiest house in the West after the Lannisters, sided with the Tarbecks. Roger Reyne was certain his army was stronger. Young Tywin would back down. Tywin raised an army without his father's permission. The vassal houses of the West followed him, not Tytos. That said everything. Tarbeck Hall fell first. The walls collapsed, burying Lady Ellen inside the castle. The Reynes retreated into the mines beneath Castamere, deep, branching. They thought they would wait it out, wait until Tywin grew tired. Tywin did not grow tired. He blocked every exit and let the water in. No one came out. Not a single person. The castle of Castamere stood empty. Tywin did not tear it down, left it standing, as a reminder. Silent, stone. Bards wrote a song, The Rains of Castamere, about a house that dared to roar at the lion. After that song, no one laughed at the Lannisters, ever. In the midst of all this, there was her, Joanna Lannister, his cousin. They had known each other since childhood, grew up in the same castle. Joanna was not simply a beautiful woman. She was the only person Tywin ever loved. Truly, not as a tool, not as an ally, as a person. She was not afraid of him, did not grovel, spoke plainly when he was wrong, laughed at his seriousness, the only one who could. People said, Tywin rules the 7 kingdoms, but Joanna rules Tywin. She saw in him what no one else saw, not strength, not coldness, a boy who burned with shame for his father. She understood where he came from. Tywin beside her allowed himself to be alive, not a lord, not a hand, just a man. They married, in the great sept of Baelor, and at that feast, Tywin smiled. Those who knew him could not believe their eyes. He almost never smiled, but there was a moment at that feast. Aerys had too much wine, stood before everyone,
and said it was a shame the right of the first night had been abolished long ago. Before the entire court, before Joanna, before Tywin. The hall went silent. Joanna lowered her eyes. Tywin did not change expression, did not stand, did not raise his voice, lifted his cup, kept smiling. But remembered. Tywin always remembered. Joanna gave him twins, Cersei and Jaime. Tywin looked at them and saw the future. Golden-haired, beautiful Lannisters. These were the years when Tywin came closest to happiness, if that word could ever apply to this man. Aerys ascended the Iron Throne, young, full of strength, confident. The first thing he did was name Tywin Hand of the King. The treasury filled, laws worked, roads were built, lords kept their word, because they knew the Hand remembered everything and forgave nothing. People noticed and said aloud, "The true ruler is not the one who wears the crown." Aerys heard every time and smiled. For now. These were the best years for the kingdom, for the Lannisters, for Tywin. They could not last forever. Then, Joanna became pregnant again. A third child. Tywin waited, as he waited for everything, with calculation. Another heir, another branch of the house, another Lannister. The birth was difficult, very difficult. The maesters said, the boy killed his mother. His birth took the only person Tywin ever loved. Joanna died. The child survived, small, deformed, a dwarf, with an oversized head, with mismatched eyes. Tyrion Lannister. When the servants left, when the doors closed, when no one could see, Tywin sat alone in their room, among her things, and was silent, staring at the place where she slept, at the pillow that still held her scent, at the comb she used to brush her hair. Tywin Lannister, the man all of Westeros feared, sat in the darkness and did not know what to do, for the first time in his life. Joanna took with her the part of Tywin that knew how to feel, how to smile, how to love. Everything else remained. Cold. Calculation, control. And that night, the Tywin the world came to know was born. The one they feared, the one they hated, the one whose name silenced entire halls. Joanna gave him Tyrion, and Tyrion gave birth to Tywin Lannister, and hatred for the little monster who did this. Tywin never forgave Tyrion, not once, in his entire life. Not because he was a dwarf, but because every time he looked at him, Tywin saw the price he paid. Tyrion grew, and Tywin looked at him with disgust. The boy was clever, very, read books, spoke in ways that silenced grown lords, joked, sharp, precise, cutting. Tywin saw shame. A dwarf, heir to Casterly Rock? A Lannister who inspires pity instead of fear? The boy did not understand why his father was so cruel to him, did not understand why he was not loved. Then, something happened that broke Tyrion forever. Tyrion and Jaime were walking down a road. They saw a girl. Bandits had attacked her. Jaime chased after them. Tyrion stayed with the girl, brought her to an inn, fed her. They drank wine and talked until morning. Her name was Tysha, a simple farmer's daughter, ordinary, nobody's, beautiful. Tyrion, for the first time in his life, felt that someone saw him. Not the dwarf, not the freak, him, a person. And she looked at him the same way. They found a drunk septon, married, settled in a little house by the sea. 2 weeks, whole days together. Tysha sang to him, laughed, loved. 2 weeks of happiness, the only ones in Tyrion's life. Tysha, simple, with a genuine soul. She was real, beautiful, full of life. Tyrion was happier than he had ever been. But that quiet happiness was interrupted. The septon sobered up and told Tywin. Tywin came to Tyrion, brought Jaime, and Jaime, on his father's orders, told the truth. Tysha was a whore. He had hired her himself. The bandits on the road, staged. It was all a show, so his little brother could be with a woman for the first time. Then Tywin brought Tysha to his soldiers and made Tyrion watch. Each soldier tossed her a silver coin. Then Tywin made Tyrion throw a gold one, because, in his words, a Lannister is worth more. Tysha looked at Tyrion. Tyrion looked at Tysha. Then she left, forever. Tywin said, "You are a Lannister. Remember that. Lannisters do not marry whores." But the truth was different. Tysha was real. Not what Tywin called her. The girl on the road was real. The love was real. Everything was real. And Tywin destroyed it. The only real love in his son's life. Lying in the cold earth, Tyrion screamed in pain. "Oh, mother, why did you leave me? I am needed by no one in this world. Oh, mother." Tyrion would learn the truth, but only many years later. Until then, he lived with the lie and the hatred for his father, for himself, for the whole world. Years passed, and Aerys changed. At first, almost invisibly. Flashes of anger. Suspicions, small humiliations that piled up like snow. Aerys looked at Tywin and saw what he did not want to see. Lords respected the hand more than the king. Victories were credited to Tywin. Envoys wanted to speak with Tywin. People whispered, "The true ruler is not the one on the throne." Jealousy ate him from within. With every year, more. Then, Duskendale. Lord Dennis Darklyn, ruler of the town, refused to pay royal taxes, demanded old privileges be restored. Tywin proposed a simple solution: raise an army, besiege the town, force surrender. But Aerys wanted to prove he was a great king, not Tywin, him. Decided to go personally, to negotiate, without an army, almost without guards. When Aerys arrived at the Darkland castle, the gates closed. Darkland arrested the king, said, "I will not release you until my demands are met." The king, a hostage. Tywin brought an army, besieged the town. Darkland sent word, "If you storm the walls, the king dies." Tywin understood. A storm means Aerys dies. He surrounded the town and waited. 6 months. The small council demanded attack. Tywin answered, "Perhaps Darkland will kill him, perhaps not. But if he does, we have a better heir," and looked toward Prince Rhaegar. In the end, Barristan Selmy volunteered to go in alone, at night, fought his way to the cell, brought Aerys out. But the Aerys who came out was a different man, broken, paranoid, trusted no one, especially Tywin. The man who stood behind the walls and waited. The madness stopped pretending. Aerys began burning people. Wildfire, public executions. The throne room reeked of smoke and fear. And Tywin continued to serve, in silence. Because as long as the hand stands beside the king, the Lannisters are safe. As long as he is near, he controls. Or thought he did. Aerys kept striking, where it hurt most. At family. Tywin proposed the finest match imaginable, Cersei and Prince Rhaegar, heir to the throne. The Lannisters would join the royal house, Cersei would become queen. Aerys refused, before everyone, said, "Princes do not marry the daughters of their servants." Tywin stood before the court, listened, face stone, bowed, walked out. Then, at the great tourney at Harrenhal, Aerys announced that Jaime Lannister had been accepted into the Kingsguard. This was not an honor. It was theft. A member of the Kingsguard cannot hold lands, cannot marry, cannot have heirs. Jaime, heir to the Rock, in 1 second, ceased to be. Aerys smiled as he announced it. He knew exactly what he was doing. After Jaime's appointment, Tywin went to Aerys, spoke calmly, asked him to reverse the decision. Aerys refused and smiled. Tywin bowed, walked out. Wrote a short letter, resigning as Hand of the King, thanking him for the honor. 20 years he had built this kingdom, filled the treasury, won wars, made the Mad King a king worthy of respect, in spite of the king himself. Tywin rode to Casterly Rock, in silence, without a scene, without threats. Aerys watched him leave and did not understand. Did not understand that Tywin Lannister leaving in silence is more dangerous than Tywin Lannister screaming. Because the silence meant one thing. Tywin had already decided. Already saw how this story would end. He was simply waiting for his moment. Robert Baratheon's rebellion tore the kingdom apart. Starks, Baratheons, Arryns, Tullys. Half of Westeros rose against the Mad King, and Tywin sat in Casterly Rock, silent. Both sides sent ravens, begging for help. Tywin answered neither, not one, not the other. He waited, calculated, watched. When Rhaegar fell at the Trident, Tywin understood. It was decided. The Targaryens had lost. And then he moved. 12,000 Lannister soldiers to the gates of King's Landing. Tywin sent word to Aerys, "I have come to help." Aerys believed him. Grand Maester Pycelle convinced him. "The Lannisters are on our side. Open the gates." The gates opened. The Lannisters entered. Pillage, murder, chaos. 20 years Tywin had built this kingdom, and in one night allowed it to be drowned in blood. And the price was children. Elia Martell, Rhaegar's wife, was hiding with her children in the royal chambers. Little Rhaenys had crawled beneath her father's bed. The infant Aegon was in his mother's arms. No one spared them. Not the woman, not the children. They did not survive that night. Whether he ordered it or merely allowed it to happen, no one knows. But he accepted the result and did not punish those responsible. The dead Targaryen heirs became the greatest proof of loyalty to the new regime. Tywin Lannister, the Lion of the Rock, Hand of the King. A man feared more than any king. He swore as a boy that no one would ever laugh at his house, and he kept his word. No one laughed. No one dared.